AITA for evicting my pregnant sister and her husband after they repeatedly violated the strict rules regarding my service dog, culminating in an incident that compromised his training and my health? I'm typing this after a week of radio silence from my entire family, feeling like I've been gutted but also weirdly resolute. I need the cold, impersonal judgment of the internet because right now, my own moral compass feels shattered. So, Reddit, am I the asshole? Let me lay out the cast. I'm Jamie, 29M. I own a small digital marketing studio that I run remotely. 5 years ago, I was in a catastrophic car accident. I won't bore you with the gory details, but it left me with a reconstructed hip, chronic nerve pain that flares up without warning, and a nasty case of PTSD that manifests in night terrors and occasional, debilitating panic attacks. After 2 years of physical therapy and counseling, my medical team suggested a service dog. This isn't an emotional support animal. This is a highly trained, task-specific partner. That partner is Baxter, a 4-year-old German Shepherd. His resume includes retrieving dropped items so I don't have to bend, a major risk for my hip, fetching my medication kit on command, using deep pressure therapy, DPT, to interrupt panic attacks and night terrors by lying across my chest, legs, and even bracing to help me stand if my leg gives out. He cost more than my first car, and his training is continuous. When he's in his marked vest, he's on duty. It's not a game. It's my independence. I own a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb. It's my sanctuary. The 3rd bedroom is my office. The setup works. Enter my sister, Laura, 32, and her husband, Derek, 34. Laura is 5 months pregnant. Derek worked in mid-level management for a retail chain that did massive layoffs 3 months ago. He's been job hunting since with no luck. Their lease was up, and with the insane rental market and a baby on the way, they were facing homelessness. My parents, the wonderful enablers that they are, immediately turned to me. The call was a masterpiece of guilt-tripping. Jamie, you have all that space. They just need a bridge, a few months tops until Derek lands something and Laura goes on maternity leave. You can't let your pregnant sister struggle. Family helps family. I love my sister, despite her lifelong tendency to be the sun in her own solar system. I said yes, but I set one non-negotiable condition. I sat them down before they moved a single box. Baxter is not a pet, I said, my voice firm. I had printed out excerpts from the AITA and his training manual. He is medical equipment. You cannot pet him, talk to him, feed him, call him, or otherwise interact with him when he's vested. Especially, and I need you to hear this, he is not allowed in your bedroom. That room needs to be his off-limits zone so his focus remains entirely on me when he's working in the common areas. Disrupting his focus undermines his training. If his training backslides, it directly impacts my health and safety. This is the only rule. Respect Baxter's workspace, and we'll all be fine. They nodded. Laura smiled that placating smile. Of course, Jamie. We get it. He's your helper. Derek gave a hearty thumbs up. No problemo. We're dog people. The first month was tolerable. The tension started as a drip. Incident 1. I'm cooking dinner. Baxter is vested, lying at my feet in a settle command. Derek walks past from the laundry room and, without breaking stride, reaches down and scratches Baxter briefly behind the ear. Hey buddy. Baxter, impeccably trained, didn't move a muscle. But I flinched. Derek, please don't. He's working. Derek laughed, a short, dismissive sound. Oh, come on, man. He's a dog. A little affection won't kill him. Look, he liked it. Baxter had, in fact, given a tiny, almost imperceptible tail thump, a sign of distraction. It's not about him liking it. It's about him learning to ignore all stimuli except me and my commands. You're diluting his discipline. Laura chimed in from the couch, not looking up from her phone. Jamie, you're being a bit intense. He's in his own home. Incident 2. Laura, hormonal and tired from pregnancy, was having a weepy afternoon on the sofa. I was in my office with Baxter, vested, under my desk. I hear her call, sweetly, Baxter. Bax, come here, sweetie. Come cheer up your Auntie Laura. I came out. Laura, no, do not call him. He's working. Her face crumpled. I'm just so sad, Jamie. He's so sweet, and I just wanted a cuddle. You're so selfish with him. Selfish. With my service dog, I explained again, calmly, that it was like asking someone in a wheelchair to get up so you could sit in it for a while. She rolled her eyes. Incident 3. The worst before the final straw. I walked into the living room to find Derek holding a piece of cracker. Baxter. Sit. Good boy. Now, paw. Give paw. He was trying to teach my service dog a party trick. Baxter, conflicted, looked at me, then at Derek, then back at me. I saw red. What the hell are you doing? Derek jumped, dropping the cracker. Geez, man, I was just having fun with him. Loosen up. You are actively untraining him. I was shaking. His value is in his predictable, disciplined responses. Paw is not a command in his lexicon. You're introducing confusion. Do you have any idea how long and expensive it is to fix that? It's just a dog, Jamie, Derek said, his voice cold. You treat him like a robot. It's not healthy. The atmosphere in the house turned to ice. We were roommates navigating a minefield. My parents called for peace talks, where they gently suggested I make allowances for Laura's pregnancy and Derek's stress. I felt like I was taking crazy pills. I was the one who needed allowances. My safe space was gone. Then came last Tuesday, the anniversary of my accident. A terrible day for me under the best of circumstances. I was on edge all morning, the ghost of metal and glass clinging to me. By mid-afternoon, I felt the familiar, cold claw of a panic attack starting to crawl up my throat, the tightening chest, the tunnel vision, the feeling of drowning on dry land. Baxter. Vest. Work, I said, my voice tight. He immediately stood, posture shifting from relaxed to attentive. I went to my bedroom, my designated safe zone. I sat on the edge of the bed, breathing already ragged. Baxter. Pressure. Without hesitation, he leapt onto the bed, positioned himself perpendicular to me, and laid his full weight across my thighs, his head on my lap. The deep, grounding pressure began to short-circuit the panic feedback loop. I closed my eyes, focusing on his steady warmth, his even breathing. This was our protocol. It usually takes 10 to 15 minutes to bring me back from the brink. 5 minutes in, the door to my bedroom, which I had not locked, a mistake born of living alone for so long, burst open. No knock. Laura stood there, hand on her belly, face pale. Jamie, I have the worst heartburn and my Tums are gone. I thought you might have. She stopped, seeing me. I must have looked a sight. Pale, sweating, breathing in shallow gasps, with an 85-pound shepherd lying on me. Her concern, however misdirected, overrode everything else. Oh my God, Jamie, are you okay? What's happening? Baxter, get off him. What's wrong, boy? She clapped her hands. She took a step into the room. Baxter, come here. In that moment, the world shattered. Baxter, whose entire being was focused on the task of anchoring me, was violently pulled from his concentration. A familiar voice, a command he'd been wrongly taught to acknowledge by these very people. His head lifted from my lap. He looked at Laura. He looked back at me, his training warring with the new, confusing input. He let out a low whine of confusion and took one hesitant step toward the edge of the bed, toward her. The second his weight shifted off me, the panic attack, which had been receding, roared back with a vengeance. It was like being plunged into ice water. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. I gasped, trying to form the command, stay, but it came out a strangled wheeze. Seeing my distress, Baxter's core training finally won. He aborted his movement toward Laura and shoved himself back against me, resuming the pressure. But the spell was broken. The focused, therapeutic rhythm was gone, replaced by his own anxious energy. He was still working, but it was messy, inefficient. It took me over an hour, supplemental medication, and a phone call to my therapist to finally calm down. Baxter spent the rest of the evening visibly anxious and clingy, his confidence shaken. When I finally emerged, I was hollowed out. Laura was sitting at the kitchen table, looking guilty but defensive. I was just worried. How was I supposed to know? I didn't yell. My anger had crystallized into something hard and sharp. You knew. We had one rule, the most important one. You violated it during a medical emergency. You compromised Baxter's training and directly interfered with my healthcare. Derek walked in. Here we go again. The dog drama. Laura was concerned for you. Is that a crime? When her concern actively makes things worse, yes. I shot back. He's not a toy. You've been treating him like one since you got here, and tonight was the direct consequence. I can't have you in my house anymore. You have 1 week to find another arrangement. The explosion was nuclear. Laura started sobbing hysterically. You're throwing out your pregnant sister? Over a dog? I'm family. Derek got in my face. You're a selfish, miserable prick. You'd choose an animal over your own flesh and blood. You need serious help, man, and not the kind a dog can give. My parents were on the phone within minutes. My mother was crying. Jamie, please, she's hormonal, she didn't mean it. You can't do this. Where will they go? My father, stern. Son, this is not how we treat family. You're being unreasonable. Apologize and let's move on. I held my ground. My house, my medical condition, my rule. They agreed to it and broke it, repeatedly, despite warnings. The result was a health setback for me and a training setback for Baxter. This isn't a safe environment for me anymore. They packed and left 2 days later, moving into a friend's overcrowded apartment. The fallout is absolute. My parents have essentially disowned me, saying I've broken the family with my rigidity. Laura has sent a long text saying I've traumatized her during her pregnancy and that her child will know what kind of man his uncle is. Mutual friends are divided, but the "you kicked out a pregnant woman" narrative is powerful and damning. So, Reddit, I'm alone in my quiet, rule-respecting house. Baxter is slowly regaining his calm focus. My health is stabilizing, but the guilt is a physical weight. I know the housing market is a nightmare. I know pregnancy is hard. I see their desperation, but I also know that my ability to function independently hinges on Baxter's unimpaired training. Letting them stay felt like slowly poisoning my own support system. Update. The real drama begins after they leave. The loneliness after their departure was deafening and unnatural. The silence I loved now rang with accusations. Baxter, sensing my state, didn't leave my side, but his confidence was shaken. He began checking in with me more often. His response to the pressure command was half a second slower, a microscopic glitch only I and his trainer would notice. I called his trainer, Sarah. He's in a state of mild disorientation, Jamie, she said after some test exercises over Skype. He's unsure who his job is now. Outsiders in the house constantly violating boundaries introduced conflicting signals. He needs reaffirmation training, a week of intensive sessions, minimum. This meant extra expense and time. But it was necessary. As I arranged things with Sarah, a deep-seated anger began to simmer, replacing the initial guilt. They didn't just break a rule. They broke a part of my survival mechanism, and made me feel guilty for fixing it. 3 days later, I logged into Facebook. I rarely do, but I was tagged. It was a post from my mom. No direct mention of my name, but everyone in our small town network understood. Sometimes the greatest disappointment comes from those you expect support from. When your own child forgets what compassion and family bonds are, and puts their strange whims above the life and health of an innocent child and its mother. Pray for our family. We are going through dark times. #family above all #gods will #life inside. Under the post, a wave of support. Horrible. Such cruelty. Poor Laura. Some people are just moral freaks. Aunt Martha wrote, he was always a strange boy. After the accident, he completely shut down. But that's no excuse. I sat there, numb, scrolling through the comments. My version of events, with AITA laws, specific incidents, had vanished. Only the emotional picture remained. A cruel brother throwing his pregnant sister out on the street. Over a dog. Then a message came from an old high school friend. Hey, Jamie. Saw your mom's post. Everything okay? Is that about you? If so, man, that's harsh. Even I'm shocked. This was worse than a direct attack. It was disappointment from someone who generally respected me. I didn't justify myself. I logged off. But the damage was done. My reputation in that narrow circle that still mattered to me was destroyed. My parents didn't limit themselves to the silent treatment. My dad called me at work. His voice was icy, businesslike. Jamie, I'm not calling as a father. I'm calling as the man who helped you with the down payment on that house. Remember our agreement? The agreement. When I bought the house, they gave me 15% for the down payment. It was a gift, but with a verbal condition. It's for your stable future. Just don't sell it in the first year. No legal documents. I remember you gifted me the money, Dad. Gratefully. It wasn't a gift. It was an investment in the family's future. An investment that implied this house would be a pillar for the family in tough times. You violated the spirit of that agreement. You used this house, a house we invested in, to throw your sister out on the street. Therefore, we believe you breached our terms. We want you to return that money. We won't insist on interest, but 15% of the current market value. You have a month to find the funds. Otherwise, we'll be forced to consider legal options. This was blackmail. Pure and simple. They knew I didn't have that kind of liquid cash. Everything was tied up in the business and the mortgage. They were trying to force me to my knees, to make me call Laura back. You realize this is blackmail, right, Dad? We have no contract. There's a moral contract, son. Either you return the money, or you bring your sister back so she can carry her pregnancy to term in peace. The choice is yours. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Baxter put his head on my lap. This time not as a service dog, but just as a friend. I needed both him and his professional skills right then. I felt a panic attack, now triggered not by the memory of the accident but by living people, approaching again. I gave the command. He performed flawlessly. This small proof of his recovery became my lifeline. A week later, I got a call from my brother-in-law, Derek. I expected more anger, but his voice was tired, almost broken. Jamie, I need to talk. Can I come over? Without Laura. She's at the doctor's. He came and stood on the doorstep, looking like he'd aged 10 years. We sat in the kitchen. Baxter, seeing him, calmly went to his crate, a sign of the highest level of focus and distancing Sarah had taught him. I came to apologize, Derek blurted out, not looking at me. For real. Not for Laura. For myself. It turned out their financial problems were deeper than I thought. Derek didn't just lose his job. He'd lost a significant sum in online poker, trying to win back after initial losses. They had debts. They weren't just evicted over rent. They were evicted for non-payment. He'd hidden this from Laura, from my parents, using the job loss story as cover. I was desperate, angry at the whole world. And when I saw how you lived, your order, your control, your perfect life with your perfect dog, it pissed me off. I thought, why does he have everything, and my life is falling apart? And I started breaking your rules out of spite. I felt like if I could make you lose control of your perfect little world, I'd feel better. It was disgusting. I see that now. He told me the bedroom incident wasn't an accident. Laura had complained to him about heartburn. He knew she was out of medicine, and he deliberately said, maybe Jamie has some in his bathroom, he always has everything. He subconsciously directed her there, knowing I might be inside. He wanted to breach my fortress. I didn't think it was that serious. Honestly, I thought you were exaggerating. But when I saw Laura afterwards, she wasn't just upset. She was horrified, not by your reaction, by what she'd done. She actually saw you get worse. She cried all night. But then, pride, parental pressure, it was easier for her to blame you than to admit we both messed up. This was a bombshell. Their behavior wasn't just careless. It was, on his part, malicious. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because your parents are pressuring me now. They say I, as the husband, need to fix the situation. They want me to force you to take Laura back. They even offered to give us money if we sue you for illegal eviction or something. They're talking about uninhabitable conditions because of the dog. I can't. I've done enough damage. I don't want them to destroy you. They don't understand what you live with. They think you're just eccentric. He handed me a flash drive. It's all here. Screenshots of my debts, correspondence with your parents. If they decide to attack for real, use this. Just, please, don't show Laura. She's broken enough as it is. I'll tell her everything myself when she's ready. With the information from Derek, I didn't feel powerful, but even heavier. I now had a weapon. But using it would mean finishing off my sister and alienating my parents forever. I called my parents and invited them over, without Laura and Derek. We need to talk. About everything. They arrived with the air of judges. I made tea, sat across from them. I know everything, I began calmly. About Derek's debts. That they were evicted for non-payment. That his behavior here was, by his own admission, out of spite. Mom paled. Dad frowned. He's lying to save his own skin. Maybe, but I have proof. And I know you're planning to put legal pressure on me. Using my house and my dog. Silence fell. We're trying to save your sister. Mom exploded. You don't understand the stress she's under. Because of you. Because of me? Or because of a husband who gambled away their money? Or because of you, who spent years convincing her she's a princess everyone knows everything to? You knew about my injuries. You saw the documents. But for you, it was always Jamie's quirks. It's easier to think of me as eccentric than to admit your son needs serious, constant medical care provided by this dog. You're willing to destroy my only effective survival mechanism to maintain the illusion of a normal family where your daughter can do no wrong. This is your family. Dad thundered. Family doesn't blackmail. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't pit one child against another, extorting money and space from them. Right now, you're not my family. You're my sister's lawyers in her war against me. And that war didn't start when I asked her to leave. It started when you all crossed my threshold and decided my rules were negotiable. I stood up. Here are my terms. You drop all financial claims and public insinuations. You cease coordinating any action against me. You acknowledge my right to a safe environment and that it was violated. In return, I won't publicize Derek's story. And I will find the strength to help Laura, but not in my home. I will pay for 2 months of rental housing for her. For her only. Not Derek. This is my final offer. Based on facts, not emotions. Dad's face turned to stone. Your offering is a surrender. I'm offering to end the war, Dad. A war nobody needs. They left without giving an answer. A month has passed. My parents were silent. Then Mom sent a brief text. We accept your terms. Laura needs help. I rented a small studio for Laura. The money came from Baxter's retraining fund. I had to take a small loan. Derek moved in with his parents. Their marriage is cracking. Laura is alone. We don't speak. The rent money is the only thread. Baxter, after a month of work with Sarah, returned to perfect form. Better than before. Sarah said the crisis did him good. He underwent stress retraining and is now even more reliable. I reconciled with that high school friend. I showed him the AITA laws, the story. He apologized. Damn, Jamie. I didn't know it was that serious. I know I'm no saint. My offer to my parents was harsh. My help for my sister is minimal and emotionless. Sometimes I wake up at night thinking I really am a monster who threw out a pregnant woman. But then I remember that hour of suffocation in the bedroom, Baxter's panicked look, and my father's cold voice demanding money. I was defending my ability to breathe. Literally and figuratively. It cost me my family. Sometimes that price seems too high. Sometimes it seems the real family has been replaced by an 85-pound German shepherd who, hearing my restless sleep, simply puts his heavy head on my chest, and the world regains its solid outlines. Final AITA question. So, Reddit, now knowing the full story, with parental blackmail, Derek's hidden debts, deliberate sabotage, and the fact that I did eventually provide financial help to my sister, but didn't take her back, am I the asshole? My actions saved the working integrity of my service dog, which is critical to my health. But they also shattered my family, possibly forever, and left my pregnant sister in a state of deep distress, even with my financial assistance.